This is Marianne Martindale of the Alliance for a Better Utah, and welcome to this week's edition of the Better Utah Beat. There's now no question that Americans, and that includes Utahns, are fast losing confidence in their elected leaders. A poll released last month by Gallup placed Congress at the bottom of a list of 16 public institutions based on how much confidence Americans have in them. Congress came in last, with only 10% of respondents expressing confidence in the People's Branch. Beating out Congress was organized labor, big business, even banks. And at the top of the list, the military. A whopping 76% of Americans are confident in the military. There is a crisis of confidence when Americans trust authoritarian institutions more than they trust democratic ones. But this isn't just an American problem that Utah is isolated from. We distrust our leaders here too. According to a June poll by BYU's Center for the Study of Elections and Democracy, Attorney General John Swallow has a 12% approval rating, about on par with Congress's own approval rating. Utahns no longer trust Swallow. Our own informal polling suggests that this lack of confidence is leaking into other areas of governance. In fact, 80% of respondents, half of which identified themselves as political moderates, say that the Attorney General scandal has negatively affected their confidence in other state leaders. Though in the case of the Attorney General, the reason for that distrust might be obvious. New allegations about John Swallow's unethical behaviors emerge weekly, if not daily. The reason for generalized trust is a little more unclear. What is wrong with American institutions of governance, like Congress, presumably an institution over which Americans exercise the most control? We do, after all, vote them in and out of office, that we should be so loath to trust. Why this sense of powerlessness? Such an answer might lie in the way money and speech are conflated in today's campaign finance laws. It has become a pay-to-play game. Voters can no longer rely on a candidate's stump speech and voting record when making decisions about whom to vote for. Today, voters need to know who has donated to a candidate since that candidate's last stump speech and floor vote if they're going to really understand who to support. But this information can be notoriously difficult to access if you aren't a political insider. The ABU Education Fund, an affiliate of the Alliance for a Better Utah, has created a financial disclosure website that anyone can easily access online at followthemoney.abueducation.org. Again, that's followthemoney.abueducation.org. The Open Access Utah Disclosure Search consists of raw data gathered from campaign finance reports available on the Utah Lieutenant Governor's website that have been collated into an easily searchable database. This information has always been available on the Lieutenant Governor's website, but it was so much more difficult to access. Think of it this way. Using the Lieutenant Governor's bureaucratic-laden database was like searching for a dozen different colored needles in a dozen different haystacks. This database finds all those needles, puts them in color-coded piles. It will save people time and the typical frustration that comes with wading through the individual disclosures. Even though the database will provide much-needed information to Utah voters, it still doesn't solve the problem of bad campaign finance laws. Attorney General John Swallow is currently being investigated by the Lieutenant Governor's office over allegations that he broke election law by failing to disclose his business interests before running for Attorney General. Though this database could not have prevented his actions, it may have been able to shed light on the curious and concerning donations that Swallow and his predecessor Mark Shurtleff were soliciting. Technology isn't always the answer, but in the absence of real campaign finance reform, an easy way to follow the money might just be the next best thing. This is Marianne Martindale with this week's edition of the Better Utah Beat. Have a great week, and remember, together, we can make a better Utah. For more information, visit betterutah.org.